Hello everyone, today's story is on Robert Charles Gleason Jr., who was the first person executed in the United States in the year 2013.
But he spit at me. So then I lit him up. I told him what was going to happen. I was waiting for one of the house guys to come by with the barrel. See, at lunchtime, they come by with the barrel for your tray. I was trying to con one of them and, hey, turn your back, I need to get something out of the barrel, but he wouldn't do it. The barrel, but rigor mortis kicked in. Couldn't do it. Do I have remorse for this? No. Am I on a suicide mission? No. My thing is, I'm not throwing this as a threat. It is what it is. If you guys give me life, sooner or later I have to go to population. I'm not Armstrong. I'll sign any kind of waiver you want beforehand, whatever's legal, saying I will not appeal this death penalty. Wash my hands with it, send me to Sussex. But if I get life, I'll end up in population sooner or later. Someone's going to get it. It ain't going to be an inmate. I don't give a rat's ass when none went by. I ain't going to do it half-ass like Lamont Douglas or the other clowns did. Now, you guys take that off. Wallen's Ridge could have prevented a death. My fault. It's my fault. The only remorse I have, my kids got to deal with their father being a scumbag. But since I got messed with, the only way to prevent me to fucking taking someone else out is to get the death penalty. Do I deserve the death penalty? Damn right it is. Your law states premeditation, inmate killing. There's a lot more that's going to be said on this stand when it does go to trial. If it wasn't for my kids, I'd take Lonnie's deal. Lonnie says it's second degree with no time. You ain't sweeping this underneath there. And I do have contacts with my club through media, not the one that the Dina Potter we're talking about. I was like, I want this to be known. It was premeditated, and you guys can do to me to hurt me. Nothing. But there's something you guys can do to prevent someone else from getting hurt. It's on you. You know what I mean? It's on you guys. Put the death back on, let the jury hear it, and go with it. After that's over with, I'll be cuffed everywhere I go at Sussex. Leave me alone. I'm going to push this to go through all right away. It might be a couple of years. But I can't guarantee nothing will happen to another staff member. That's my word. Take that for whatever you think it's worth. Put a letter for this guy's family, you know what I mean, yeah, you guys may think he's crazy, but you know what, he couldn't help it. I did everything I could to not to kill this man. But when she played games, I planned it. You know what I mean? I was taunting him. Yeah, it's coming. All these rules you should have went by, it's coming, Holmes. I even gave him a cigarette, like, here you go, compadre. Enjoy that, you know, I got no remorse for it. Zero. Let me ask you a question if you want to answer it, and you don't have to. If you had a chance today to prevent another death, wouldn't you do it? You don't have to answer it, but if you'd say no, I'd call you a liar. You know, here's your chance for one death that shouldn't have happened. You have a chance to stop another one. I feel justice would be served for that man, because that man shouldn't have been in my cell, no matter what he did in his past. Someone should have.
Robert Charles Gleason Jr. was born on April 10, 1970. There is not a lot of information on his childhood, but some accounts say that growing up, Robert was in and out of mental health facilities. When he got older, he continued suffering from paranoia, anxiety, and depression. Despite his mental health struggles, he was still able to have relationships with women, and he fathered multiple children with these women as well. Patrick Hoffman, a friend of Robert's, said that he was a genuine nice guy and an all-around good person. Robert had worked as a tattoo artist for a while, and Patrick said that not only was Robert a great tattoo artist and friend, but he was a great father figure too. Patrick also said that Robert was never aggressive. Amy Taylor, the mother of one of Robert's children, said that Robert was very fun, loving, and compassionate. Despite kind things being said by many people, Robert was not how others portrayed him. He had ties to the gang world and had killed multiple people and got away with it. Early in 2007, Robert was dabbling in the meth drug trade ring, and his movements were being observed by federal investigators. In order to prevent someone from snitching on him, he killed truck driver Michael Kent Jamerson on May 8, 2007. On May 9, 2007, the day after Michael was killed, a turkey hunter found his body. A few days later, a Liberty University student was fishing along the bank of the James River, and they found a gun. The gun was found 3 miles away from where Michael's body was found. Evidence traced back to Robert, and he was arrested. His trial did not begin until 2008, but during his trial, he admitted to killing Michael. He said that he had stopped by a wooded area in Amherst County, and he pulled the gun used to kill Michael from Michael's own belt. After grabbing the gun, Robert told Michael to get right with God, and then he started shooting him multiple times. For this crime, Robert was sentenced to life in prison at the Wallens Ridge State Prison. The following year, in 2009, Robert was cellmates with a Harvey Gray Watson. Harvey, who was born on September 11, 1945, was serving a 100-year sentence for a shooting spree that took place on August 11, 1983. His shooting spree resulted in him killing one person and injuring 3 more. Robert believed Harvey was severely mentally ill, and he demanded to be moved to another cell. His request fell on deaf ears because his request was never granted, and he continued living with Harvey as his cellmate. Harvey did have known mental health issues, though. He was known for singing loud and obnoxious made-up songs throughout the night and would even drink his own urine. Day by day, Robert grew angrier. Robert could no longer take it, and on May 8, 2007, the second anniversary of when he killed Michael Jamerson, Robert killed his 63-year-old cellmate Harvey Watson. The two had only been cellmates for a week. Robert kept quiet, got some sleep, and guards did not find Harvey's body until about 15 hours after he had died. Robert had no issues admitting to his crime against Harvey, and he pled guilty to murder. His case grew a lot of media attention, and in court, he asked to be sentenced to death because he knew he would kill again. He said it was not Harvey's fault that he died, but the prison's, because they knew he was a killer and would continue killing. He also admitted to killing more people before Michael Jamerson, but had just never been busted for those murders. He claimed that some kills were for money, and others were because people just made him angry. Robert was found guilty of killing Harvey, but while waiting for his sentence, he was sent to a highly secure prison for Virginia's most dangerous inmates at Red Onion State Prison. Despite being at a supermax prison with surveillance cameras everywhere, Robert made it his mission to prove his point and kill again. It was July 28, 2010, and Robert, along with other inmates, were sent to the recreation yard. Inmates were all separated by a chain-link fence. In the cage next to Robert's, there was a 26-year-old convicted carjacker by the name of Aaron Cooper, who was serving a 34-year sentence at Red Onion. Robert ripped and braided bed sheets and brought it with him to his cage. Next thing you know, Robert used the bed sheets to try and kill Aaron. Robert fit his hands and the bed sheet through the fence, and it took him over 1 hour on and off to finish Aaron off. Aaron's oxygen supply was cut on and off multiple times. Finally, after the hour was over and Aaron was officially dead, guards miraculously saw a body lying on the ground from the surveillance cameras, so they ran to the rec yard and tried giving Aaron CPR. Robert began mocking the guards and was quoted saying, "You're going to have to pump a lot harder than that." Although during trial, Robert was deemed to have been suffering from depression and impulsive behavior, he was still deemed competent and knew right from wrong. Robert ultimately received 2 death sentences. He said in phone interviews that he deserved to die for what he did. He was quoted saying, "The death part don't bother me. This has been a long time coming. I wasn't there as a father, and I'm hoping that I can do one last good thing. Hopefully this is a good thing." While on death row, Robert continued to request death because he kept a promise to his loved ones that he wouldn't kill again, and the only way to fulfill the promise was for him to die himself. He also claimed that his death will teach his children what could happen if they follow in his footsteps. A Virginia Attorney General filed with the Virginia Supreme Court and wrote, "Killing to Robert is no different than going to the fridge to get a beer or tying a shoe," and he repeatedly made clear that he would continue to kill unless he received a death sentence. There was no need to fight, though, because Robert refused to appeal his death sentences and told his attorneys not to oppose his execution. When it was nearing Robert's January 16, 2013 execution, his sister Barbara said that she had mixed feelings about his execution because she loved him, but she didn't want him to be able to kill more people. In the state of Virginia, they do not allow inmates' families to witness their executions, so Barbara nor any of Robert's relatives were able to witness his execution. On Robert's execution day, there were last-minute appeals that were all rejected by the governor and the U.S. Supreme Court. None of the appeals were from Robert, though. People went against his wishes, and there was a whole team of capital defense attorneys trying to claim that Robert was mentally incompetent and his wish to die should not be granted. A prison guard was on standby with a red phone in his hand that was a direct line to the governor's office. There was never any intervention to delay his execution, and at 9 o'clock at night, the guard gave the okay for the executioner to begin the execution. I would also like to briefly mention that in 1995, Virginia gave death row inmates the option to choose their method of execution, either electrocution or lethal injection. By 2013, 85 inmates had been executed in Virginia, and only 6 out of those 85 inmates chose to be executed by method of electrocution rather than lethal injection. Robert chose electrocution. Robert walked into the execution chamber and smiled at all of the witnesses and winked at his spiritual advisor. One of the witnesses was his victim Aaron Cooper's mother, Kim Strickland. He then gave the crowd a thumbs up and sat in the wooden chair. He was wearing flip-flops, a blue shirt, dark blue pants with the right pant leg cut off at the knee, a skull cap, and a brine-soaked sea sponge that was strapped to his right calf. Robert then made his final statement. "Well, I hope Percy ain't going to wet the sponge. Put me on the highway to Jackson and call my Irish buddies. Pog mo foin. God bless." After making his final statement, they covered his eyes and mouth, but there were holes for him to breathe out of his nose. There was a key on the wall that was turned to activate the system, and another execution member who was behind a one-way window pressed the actual execution button. The first cycle of electricity lasted for 20 seconds, the second cycle lasted 60 seconds, the third cycle lasted 90 seconds, and after 8 minutes, Robert was pronounced dead. Kim Strickland, victim Aaron Cooper's mother who witnessed the execution, sued Red Onion State Prison over Aaron's death. She was quoted saying, "May God have mercy on his soul. I've been praying and will continue to pray that his family can heal from this ordeal." While Robert was on death row, Kim had actually received a letter from Robert describing Aaron's death. In the letter, he also wrote, "Everyone will be okay if I get the death penalty." He finished off by saying he was going to keep her address. Kim lived in fear, knowing that someone had given Robert her address. She moved multiple times in hopes that Robert would never find out where she lived again and harm her. Back during Robert's sentencing hearing, she actually told the court that she was scared. "A very reliable source told me I was not safe and I have moved 4 or 5 times. I have no sense of home anymore." Kim continued living in fear and did not have any stability. She did witness Robert's execution, but the instability caused her to become broke, and she ended up living out of her car and shelters. If a death row inmate makes you feel unsafe and knows where you live, do you think the government should automatically put the victim in witness protection? Also, do you think the prison should have given her a payout for her son's death, or do you feel as if he was a criminal, and those are the chances and or possibilities that might happen if you are a prisoner? Thank you all for watching another episode of Death Row Executions. Let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments below.